Okay, welcome to another sushi making session, and right now we're going to make quite a simple one. We're going to make a salmon maki or maki sushi with a little twist to it. Now really this wants to be sushi grade smoked salmon, i.e. like smoked raw if you like, but really difficult to get hold of that at the moment in Tesco's. You can buy obviously smoked salmon fillets for cooking, but they're not really sushi grade. So we're going to improvise with some smoked salmon strips. Now obviously if we wanted like a a chunk of it like that, we ain't going to get that because this is strips, but we'll improvise. So it's not an awful lot in this one. Okay, you've got your nori, you've got your sushi rice, some cucumber cut up in julienne strips, like I say, the smoked salmon and wasabi, and then just to finish off on top, a little bit decoration, we're going to have some caviar. This is, I believe, a vegetarian one, right? He's got salmon in it anyway, so right. So first thing we want to do with our cucumber is we want to slice this thinly into julienne strips. Okay, if possible try and take the seeds out. I'm just going to take that bit out there because that's got the seeds in that bit. So like I say, we're just slicing this up into thin strips. What I do. So I'm just going to put that into that plate. Go over there. That's all just seeds anyway. Okay, so that's the cucumber done. Now, having said how we normally would use salmon grade sushi, we actually in this case do want fine slices. So using this smoked salmon slices isn't actually that bad an idea. But what we want is we can have some thin strips, and rather than being inside, it's going to be sort of like partly in but over the top. Oh, excuse me. So what we want to do is cut some strips, okay, and it's a bit like doing the cucumber. If there's not quite enough to fill it, we just overlap it. So I've got my thin strips here, okay. Don't worry too much about your trimmings, we can trim that later. So that is essentially all we need to prepare, ready for doing our rolling. So I'm just going to clean my board up and we'll get rolling. Okay, so for this one we actually only want half a sheet of nori, so just going to slice that in half. Convenient you didn't do it. Okay, and we'll put this by for on because we're going to make another sushi that also only wants half. Right, so what we now do is we take our sushi rice, and we're actually going to spread this across the middle, but we're going to leave a little gap on both sides. Okay, so the one nearest us and the one away from us. And before we do that, we put our mat down and we put it on our mat. Right, so get some of our sticky rice, and like I say, we're now just going to put this essentially in a wide strip down the middle. Okay, just leaving a little gap at either side. And again, this is probably going to make about 8 sushi, but they're obviously going to be a little bit smaller than other ones because we're only using half a sheet of nori. So let me just finish the rice and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so there's our sushi rice on there. The next thing we're going to want is some wasabi. Now I've got my wasabi paste in a tube, alright? You can make it fresh or whatever, okay? But this is a bit easier, a bit more convenient. And what we're going to do is we're just going to smear some, just in a little thin strip, down the middle. Bear in mind, you know, this is a bit pokey, okay? And this is really what the twist is, okay? It's the fact that you've got this little kick inside, which is your wasabi. So, I think that's just about enough. So, rinse that off. Now we take our thin strips of cucumber, okay, and we lay that across the middle, essentially over that wasabi strip. Now we don't want to go too much because obviously, you know, we haven't got an awful lot there to roll. Okay, but there you go. I think we just had that little thin strip in there. So that is essentially what goes inside, okay? The salmon we're going to lay so that it essentially is just on the edge of that mat, okay? So I'm just going to put it a couple of layers thick because, like I say, this isn't your normal sliced off, right? So it's partly on the nori, but obviously overhanging a little bit. So I've just made it a little bit wider, okay? Just tear that bit off of there. Okay, so let me just pause while I wash my hands. Now I've got a little bit of a gap between the edge of the rice and the edge of the salmon. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few small pinches of sushi rice just to bring the edge of the rice up to the salmon edge. We don't want to go onto the salmon, okay? We just want just to fill in that little gap that's just there, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to start to roll it. Now, because we want our salmon to be partly outside, what we don't want to do is just trying to move this so it's a bit nearer the end of the mat. We want to roll it so that we finish the roll just as we get to the salmon. So we just hook the salmon inside, okay? So we start bringing this up, okay, and we're bringing it round. Whoops, cucumber's trying to escape there. We bring it round and then we carry on rolling. So now we're rolling on top of the salmon. Okay, now we want to press it down. Okay, now ideally what we want to do now is with the sort of the layer of salmon at the bottom there, we want to squeeze it so it's vaguely rectangular. Okay, so let's have a look. There we go. It's a little bit untidy there, the way that our salmon's overhanging. Okay, but you've got the idea of what I might do is I might just take my knife and just gently trim that salmon, okay, just simply because we want a nice edge on it and it's looking a bit of a mess. All right, so let me just finish trimming that. he says, waving a bloody great sharp knife about. Okay, so we just take it off our mat. Okay. Now, we're just going to trim off the ends. Okay. And then we got a little bit for Ron. Okay, where's my wet cloth? So, like I say, we just want to wet our cloth, and then we're cutting in half. Half again. And again, we cut each of them in half. So we end up with our 8 mini little rolls of salmon Maki sushi with a twist. Alright, so I'm just going to finish doing them and clean it up, and we'll make something else, I think.